What's up, everyone? So, today we are going to be reading for Why Others Find You Intimidating. So, intimidating comes up a lot as far as like traits from you guys when I'm reading. So, this feels like a good topic. We're going to be doing 4 piles. So, for pile 1, that's going to be the 7 of Spades. For pile 2, that's going to be the 9 of Diamonds. For pile 3, that's going to be the 10 of Clubs. And for pile 4, that's going to be the 8 of Diamonds. And for the collective, I've got the 4 of Spades. So what makes you guys intimidating, and it's funny because I think that this was actually the collective reading for the last video I did as well. You guys just come off as so calm, cool, and collected in situations that would make others fry. Like, people have seen you totally in control in situations that have made their jaws drop. Like, it makes you very intimidating, and it also gives you a very good poker face almost. Like, people have a really hard time gauging how you're thinking or how you're feeling in certain situations. You're really good at keeping like a calm, cool, collected front regardless of what you're feeling on the inside, basically. And it makes you really intimidating. People can't read you, and that inability to read you makes you very, very intimidating to deal with, especially for people who have never dealt with you before, or people who like are just getting to know you. They have a very difficult time getting a read on you, and it makes you very intimidating. And so again, for the piles, we've got pile 1 with the 7 of Spades, and pile 2 with the 9 of Diamonds, pile 3 with the 10 of Clubs, and pile 4 with the 8 of Diamonds. Alright, and starting off with pile 1 with the 7 of Spades. Already what I'm getting is that people find you intimidating because it seems that you seem to get what you want without having to try or having to work for it. I'm already getting that you probably put in a whole lot of work behind the scenes. This factors into what we were just talking about with having a really calm, cool, and collected front. You don't let people see you sweat, and that means that includes like the sweat that goes into like the work you do, right? Like, you make things look really easy. You make things look like they come to you really naturally. And it is very intimidating. It makes, especially in a work setting, I'm getting, especially in like competitive work settings, it it seems like people feel like they'll never catch up. Like, you are naturally just very, very gifted, and they'll never be able to catch up because on top of being very gifted, you're also constantly evolving. Also, very smooth talker. You might be someone who's really good at talking your way out of trouble. You might be someone who's been accused of being very good at talking your way out of trouble. There's the sense here that people are intimidated going up against you in like verbal altercations. People feel like you will naturally take the lead because you're much better at articulating yourself than most people are. All right. What else can we know, please, about why others find you intimidating? Yeah, you might be someone who has been accused of things coming to you very, very naturally. Like, in jealous situations, in situations where you may have had to deal with people's jealousy, it may come out that people just feel like you don't have to work for what comes to you naturally. Like you are so naturally gifted in areas where they have to put in so much work, and it's not fair. People act like it's not fair. Again, I feel like it's just that you're really good at keeping like a solid poker face, and you don't show people how much work you put into everything that you do. Like if you're up every single night putting in 4 hours of extra work to your writing, let's say, or your music or whatever, right? Like if you spend your day and then you spend an extra 4 hours a night just on that while everyone else is sleeping, when it comes to debut and everyone thinks that you haven't practiced because you've only been practicing when everyone's been asleep, that doesn't cancel out all the practice you've done. Like you've done all of this work. You deserve the accolades for the work that you've done. It's very easy for people to write that off, however, when they don't see the work that you put into it. It's very, very easy for them to just be jealous of what seems to be natural gift. And for you probably are very naturally gifted. You probably are a very naturally gifted person, but that doesn't take away from the effort that you put in every other aspect. You know what I mean? And the people who have come to terms with that, the people who acknowledge the fact that you are very naturally gifted at what you do, but also very, very hard worker, they find it to be very intimidating. They find your drive, they find your willingness to continue to push forward, they find that very, very intimidating. Yeah, and we've got the 10 of coins. And this 10 of coins is actually a rather strange one. It's got a rather negative bend to it. In general, the 10 of coins is a wonderful card about legacy and long-lasting abundance, right? This 10 of coins is about someone who had that all and lost it all. You are someone who has been through a lot. I'm getting it almost in reverse, like a very strong pulled yourself up by your bootstraps story. Like I do get the sense, again, I was just saying that nothing was ever handed to you. I don't think that anything was ever handed to you. Even when it comes to natural gifts, again, it's one thing to be born gifted and another thing entirely to take that gift and mold it into something that's worth having outside of just a natural bend. You know what I mean? You clearly have been willing to put in the effort to make yourself better and to improve yourself. And people find that to be very, very intimidating. People know that you're going to have a legacy for yourself. People know that you're only going up, especially people who have been around you or who have been watching you for an extended period of time. Like they know that you're going places in life and they know that you are going to see success in this lifetime. And it can be very intimidating for people, especially people who are trying to get into your life. Every time they look at you, you're further ahead and further up the road. Do you know what I mean? So a long time ago, I think people gave up on trying to keep up with you or catch up with you even. But now it's all about where are they supposed to catch you and involve themselves in your life. You just keep getting further and further and further away. It can be very intimidating. People feel like you're out of their league. Like people who started when they met you by feeling like you were out of their league, now that they've known you, know that you're out of their league. Like it, to know you is just to understand how intimidating you are, is how it feels. You know what I mean? Like even people who love you, even people who are really close to you, they can be really intimidated by your ability and by just the energy of progress around you. Like they can be really intimidated by how quickly you progress and how quickly you self-improve. The sun. Yeah, and you do it all with a smile on your face. You've managed to do it all with very childlike wonder. The sun card is a very, very, it's a very, very inner happiness card, right? It's about childlike happiness and childlike joy. You managed to do all of this with a smile on your face. That's how you make it look so easy. That's part of why people think that this all just comes really naturally to you. Because regardless of the amount of work that you have to put in, and regardless of the amount of effort that goes into everything that you do, you still manage to do it with a smile on your face because you enjoy it. You're not doing any of this because you feel like you have to. Like, you are honing your skills because it comes very naturally to you. And if anything, that is the gift that was given to you, right? Like, it's not just a natural bend towards things, but also the fact that you really do enjoy genuinely the gifts that you were given. So it's really easy for you to continue to advance in them. It's really easy for you to continue to move yourself forward. You don't despise being alive, and you don't hate yourself. And so it's easy for you to self-improve. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a painful process for you, which is really rare, honestly, nowadays. It's very, very rare to find someone who can self-improve and be really realistic with themselves without getting down on themselves about things. Like, that's part of how you get better at the things that you do. You're honest, you're realistic with yourself, but you don't beat yourself down into nothing until you don't want to try anymore. You're very good at supporting yourself. I do get the sense here that you can be very independent, and that is also part of what intimidates people. You stand on your own 2 feet very, very well. And especially, again, if people are trying to find a way into your life, if they're trying to find a way to introduce themselves to you, it can be very difficult to find that way when there's nothing anyone seems to have to offer you. Like, you are very, very self-contained. So people feel almost like they should wait for you to approach them, because especially people who are like acquaintances or people who you don't know very well but you're on good terms with, like, these people think that you're busy. They just assume that you have a lot going on. So if they can't help you, obviously they should just stay out of your way. And if you've got a second, you'll approach them. It does get the sense here that you might deal with loneliness sometimes. Like, people are intimidated by the parts of you that just shine so brightly that it is kind of blinding. And that that kind of personality it's intimidating in the best kinds of ways, but it can make for a very lonely area when people are too intimidated to come towards you and try to actually make any kind of relationship with you. And we've got the Karma card. This is the Justice card in this deck. Yeah, and the Justice card is very, very weighty. We go from the Sun card, which is a very light-hearted, playful, joyous energy, to the Judgment card, which is a very, very heavy life purpose energy, right? You are on a path. You look like you're someone who knows where you're going. You look like you're someone who has goals. You look like you're someone who has made it this far and is only going to continue going further, right? And it can be very intimidating for people. Again, they want to stay out of your way. People really want to stay out of your way. People are very, very concerned about getting in your way, because it seems like the worst thing someone can do to someone like you, especially if they don't have anything to offer you along the way. Then the best thing they can do is just kind of step out of the way and let you do your thing, let you shine. You know what I mean? It's very, very intimidating energy. It almost comes off as like famous energy. Like, you might be an influencer, you might have like a platform of some sort. There's definitely the sense here that there are lots of eyes on you who are watching your progress, who are really, really curious about where you're going in life, because they've seen you come very far, basically, and they know that you're only going further. People have kind of guessed that you have a really, really strong life purpose. People have kind of pieced together that you are going places in your life. And even if they can't be a part of that journey, people are really curious as to where that journey is going to take you. But just the fact that you have a journey like that is very intimidating to people, because not everyone has a life purpose like that. And not everyone not everyone is willing to grab their life purpose by the horns like that and go. You know what I mean? You come off as someone very brave. You come off as someone very self-assured. If that isn't necessarily true, if that's not how you feel about yourself, that's how people feel about you. They feel that you are a very self-assured person who has a goal in mind. And it makes you very intimidating, especially in the case of people who want to approach you and like start new relationships with you. And we've got the vigilante. This is the justice card in this deck. So the justice card and the judgment card both, they weigh heavily in the exact same way, in this exact same life purpose way. The justice card is all about giving and receiving in equal balance, right? There is just so much purpose to what you do. People, and this comes back to what we were talking about with equivalent exchange and people feeling like they don't have anything to offer you. That's part of why they stay out of your way. That's part of why they're so intimidated by you, because there's nothing that they have to offer you in return for what they feel like they're going to get from you just by being around you. You know what I mean? Like, people feel like they could gain so much just by being in your orbit and just by absorbing your light. And for more insecure people, it makes it very intimidating to even think about approaching you because they don't feel like they have anything else to offer you in exchange. There's no equivalency there, so they can't imagine why you would even give them the time of day. The justice card with the scales is also with a sword, right? Like, there is something very intimidating just about approaching the lady of justice and having yourself weighed to see what comes back. People are also very intimidated by people are there's something here that says that people are nervous that you would reject them, basically. Like, there's something about you that makes people feel like if you were to judge them poorly, it would really, really actually hurt them. It would genuinely hurt their pride. It would genuinely hurt their feelings to have you judge them poorly, to have you judge them negatively. I'm getting even people maybe who, like, you haven't necessarily gotten along with, like, you might be someone who's had to deal with, like, people really want your approval, but they don't want to give you their approval. Like, people really want your kindness and they really want your involvement in their life, but they don't want to give that back to you. That lack of equivalency, again, there's the sense that you've been through stuff like that before, so you don't deal with that anymore. That's not something that you deal with in your relationships anymore. And people know that about you. The people around you know that about you now. And it makes you very intimidating. They don't know what to offer you, so it makes them stay away. It makes you even more intimidating in actual spec. And we've got the World card. This is such a strong reading. Four major arcana cards ending on the World and starting with the Ten of Pentacles. This is such a strong reading. People just sense so much power coming off of you. Like, and there's no other word for it. Like, there's just something so deep and powerful about this energy. I'm getting like 8th house energy, like very, very deep, very, very self introspective, basically. People feel like you are someone who could stare. You may have gotten told before, you may have been told before that you have very pretty eyes, or that you have like very piercing eyes, very, very intense eyes. That's traditionally, it's a mark of like Scorpio energy, and Scorpio energy is related to Pluto, which is also indicative of the Judgment card. People feel like you are someone who can see into their souls. Like, there's something about you that feels like you are, I don't want to say that you're judging them, but that you could judge them. Like, you could weigh them. You could accurately weigh them. And that's part of why people are afraid of what you'd come back with. Like, they're very nervous about what you would come back with. The World card is all about abundance. It's all about endings, right? You are someone who is reborn regularly. People have seen you with this self-progression. People have seen you be reborn over and over and over again. Rebirth is a theme with the Judgment card as well. People have seen you reach the end and then start your journey over again. And your willingness to be rebirthed, your willingness to learn your lessons, your willingness to let it break you back down so you can start the journey all over again. The fact that you're not afraid to do that kind of thing, it makes you incredibly intimidating. People don't know what to expect from you, and people don't know where you're going next. You're constantly catching people off guard. People who are trying to get like a solid read on you so they can try to get closer to you, they can never ever figure out what you're going to do next. There's just something so powerful and unreadable about your energy. And I don't get the sense that you try to be this way either. I don't think that you try to be so intense. I think that you are just very naturally an incredibly intense person. What comes to mind is bad luck. I don't go looking for bad luck. Bad luck comes looking for me. Not necessarily with bad luck, but just with like intense events and situations. Like you might be someone who really, really profound and intense things happen to you just like on the regular. Like you might have stories that people have issues believing at first, and then they get to know you better and they're like, no, this really does just happen to you, huh? You're just kind of someone who attracts situations like this. Like you are someone who is constantly evolving and constantly going through really, really profound changes in your lifetime. And every time people look away from you, when they look back, you're further away, you're higher up, you're evolving into something better, brighter, newer, you know what I mean? And it makes you incredibly intimidating. The world card also comes with a certain amount of spiritual protection. There's a sense here that people who don't have good intentions for you, especially with judgment and justice card here, people who don't have good intentions for you are kept away from your life at this point. Like I do get the sense that you've gone I get the sense that you've gone through it. I get the sense that you have definitely dealt with people who are not the best, but at this point in your life you're very heavily spiritually protected. People who don't have good intentions, they feel like they should step away from you, or they're kept away from you because you are not meant to have to go through those lessons anymore. You've dealt with the lesson of having to deal with shitty people who make you have to understand that you can't just give and give and give. You need to have some kind of equal, reciprocal relationship for it to be fair. And at the bottom of the deck, we've got the Page of Blades. Now, the Page of Blades is the Page of Swords in this deck. The Page of Swords is the spy card, like the social media spy card. People are very, and I don't think that it's a coincidence that it's a page either coming up to represent other people. With all of the strong energy on the table for you, people are held back because they are heavily intimidated by your energy, but they still watch you from afar. And that's definitely the energy that's been coming through here. People have been watching your journey. People have been very curious about where you're going in life and what you're doing with your life. They're really curious about how your life is going to turn out, and there have been people watching you. People are just really interested in you in like a very, very complimentary way, actually. Like I get the sense that you might have been someone at one point that people watched you because you were kind of stumbling around and you were going through things. Like you may have been someone who went through very, very public down periods in your life, like very, very public low points in your life. And there was at one point people who would watch you because you were at a low point in your life. But now those people have watched you just rise and rise and rise, and you're just on your way skyrocketing to somewhere great. And people now watch you because they want to see where you're going. It's no longer about watching you flounder. Now you've gained actual fans. Now your haters are just kind of standing there with their jaws hanging open. And you have literal fans. There are people who actually support you, people who want to support you. All right, these cards are new. I just started putting these cards together. They're about tropes, and they kind of out me as the nerd that I am. All right. Let's see. What more can we know, please? about why people find you to be intimidating. Let's see. The pretty boy girl, before I even have to read that, people find you to be very attractive. Eighth house energy is Scorpio energy, right? We're talking very magnetic energy, very, very sex appeal energy, like that kind of attractive, something very deep and like raw almost, right? People find you to be intimidating because you're very, very sexually attractive. You're very, very magnetic in that kind of way, and people can be very off put by it. Like, even people who are not interested in you like that can't help but acknowledge the fact that they find you to be very attractive like that. Even people who aren't interested in stuff like that can't help but acknowledge that, like, you are someone who is kind of like objectively very attractive in that regard. And it can be really off-putting for some people. I'm getting like, some people can be very, very off-put by how much you affect them, especially if they're just meeting you, and especially if they're just trying to get to know you, and especially if it's in like a professional setting, like they're getting to know you in a professional setting. It can be incredibly off-putting for people, not in a bad way on your part, but in a very, very uncomfortable way on their part, basically. Like, it can be very distracting. We've got shallow, superficial, needs to be in the spotlight, ditzy, prefers looks over substance, can be cruel to those they don't find attractive. So I'm getting that these are things that people like to assume about you. Everything that I've just said about someone who is so incredibly sexually magnetic like that, like, I think people kind of just assume that you kind of skate by on that. And honestly, especially with the fact that, like, it seems like you just keep going up in your life, I think people who try to downplay your accomplishments in life, they try to write off the fact that you have put in all this. I think that I even mentioned that at the very, very beginning of your reading, that there are people who try to write off the amount of work that you've put in because they don't realize just how much work you've put in. There are lots of people who try to write off the kind of person that you are just in general because they don't like to believe that someone who is as appealing as you are can also be so multifaceted and so kind and so generous. Someone who had to go through like really intense situations with other people to grow and learn who they are as a person and to really learn how to set boundaries. Like, people don't like acknowledging that that's the kind of layers that exists in someone who they find to be so off-puttingly sexually appealing. And we've got the magician creator, fully harnessed personal empowerment, morally ambiguous, operates according to personal beliefs, accidental leader, unafraid in the face of uncertainty, takes destiny into their own hands, makes change. Yeah, and that is very justice card energy. Everything about that was very justice card energy, right? You are someone who operates according to your own moral compass of like give and take, right? Or your own moral compass isn't necessarily the right word, but it comes really close. Like, you're someone who operates separately of social norms, probably is what I'm trying to say. Like, you have gotten to a point in your life, I think, where you've had to learn how to set boundaries. And sometimes setting boundaries is also acknowledging the fact that social norms be damned. You can't let people step all over you, and you can't let people talk down to you, and you can't let people disrespect you. Like, you've really had to learn how to pull yourself up through your path in life, and you've really had to learn how to make yourself, how to empower yourself, how to hype yourself up, how to support yourself. And it's made you into a great leader. It's made you into someone who can change things, who walks into a room and changes things. This is part of why people assume that you want the spotlight, because you just kind of naturally take the spotlight. You are so magnetic. There's something so powerful about your energy and about the energy that surrounds you. Like, you can't help it. It's not your fault. But there are people who are very jealous about it, who just kind of assume that you're doing all of this on purpose. There are probably people who treat you like you do things in your life just to irritate them specifically, as if they're that important to you. Like, that's the kind of energy that that kind of jealousy brings. And we've got yandere. So, already, before I read this, people this links back to the fact that people find you to be very, very disarmingly sexually attractive. Like, people are intimidated by just how intensely they feel for you off the cuff. Like, they're very, very intimidated by the feelings that you bring out of them without even having to try. And I think the longer that people get to know you and the more intense those feelings become, the more off put they're made if they're getting to know you in a way that's not like very intimate. You know what I mean? In a way that's rather shallow, like as a coworker, as an acquaintance, through a friend, like in a way that's not more intimate. It can be so off putting to them when they only keep building and building and building in this kind of like almost obsession for you. This is the kind of energy that like people who knew you for a second years ago still think about you. They can't help it. You just have such intense energy and it's very intimidating to them. Like, even if they could see you again, they're not sure how they would even be able to talk to you. You're just too intimidating. So, obsessive and possessive to the point of danger, cannot take no for an answer, prone to delusional behavior, prone to idealization, and refuses to see the flaws in what they love. Yeah, this is how people feel about like how they feel about you. There's just something so intense about how they feel about you, especially when people like give in to that kind of attraction and they start to like really, really letting themselves be attracted to you. It becomes something so intense so quickly that it's very intimidating. Like, it even intimidates them how strongly they're feeling for you. They can't help it though. There's just something very magnetic about you. And we've got ENTP, extroversion, thinking, intuition, perceiving, rational, intellectual, thinks outside the box, inventor, goal focused, task oriented, and strategic, outspoken, dislikes routine, good at reading people, clever, innovative, problem solver, can enjoy theoretical, intellectual debate. And so I think that I mentioned at the very beginning of your reading that you're good at reading people and it can be very off putting to people. Um, but this also comes back to the magician and the creator energy, where like I think inventor was on there too. You're very good at problem solving. You're very, very good at thinking your way around really serious issues. And it can be very intimidating for people, especially people who only know you as like a pretty face, right? Like, you have so much depth to you that it is very, very off-putting to people who would like to imagine people as one-dimensional. All right, loves, that is what I've got for you. That was a fun reading. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope it was fun. I hope it was enlightening. I will see you next time. Bye. All right, and we are on pile number 2 with the Nine of Pentacles, or the Nine of Diamonds. It is indicative of the Nine of Pentacles, however, and already off the cuff, what I'm getting is that you are... The song Miss Independent is playing in my head right now. You're very, very independent. You're very, very self-assured. I'm getting that you're someone who provides for yourself very well. You don't need external support. And especially in the sense of like romantic situations, that can be very intimidating to people, especially if you would identify as someone more feminine. More traditionally masculine people find that to be very intimidating. They find it to be really... Some of the more unhealthy people can find it to be off-putting almost. Like, you don't need extra validation from the people around you. You are... Yeah, the Eight of Blades. I'm getting that you're someone who had to grow out of needing like validation from the people around you. You had to really come to terms with the fact that it only holds you back. The Eight of Swords is about like almost self-entrapment. Like, you had to come to terms with the fact that it can be very, very limiting to need other people's validation in your life, and to need that kind of like that kind of that kind of care from other people, basically, to function correctly. And you grew out of it. You evolved, you moved forward, and you grew out of it. And I think especially people who knew you at that point in your life where you needed more validation, they are they're very intimidated by the changes you've made. They're very, very intimidated by the person that you've grown into. I get the sense that you blossomed after you stopped needing other people to tell you that you are a wonderful, amazing person. I get the sense that you blossomed. All right. What more can we know, please, about why others find you to be intimidating? If you are a business person or someone who's self-employed at all, which would fit in with everything we were just talking about, people find you to be very intimidating because they know that you're going to be successful. Like, whether you are successful right now or not, people who know what you're capable of, they know that you're going to be successful in life, and they know that you're going to be successful in the kind of stuff that you're trying to do with your business or with your self-employment. Like, there's definitely a sense here that especially people who are competing with you in these arenas, they're heavily intimidated by your abilities, and they're heavily intimidated by what you bring to the table. The Wheel of Fortune. Now, the Wheel of Fortune here obviously is it's depicted by a revolver, as in, like, I'm getting almost Russian roulette here. Like, you are intimidating because you're someone who's willing to roll the dice. You're someone who I genuinely get that, like, once you broke free of needing people's approval or people's validation, you blossomed. You became someone who was capable of doing so much more just because you took those chains off. You're someone now who's willing to roll the dice. You're someone now who's willing to make changes and to, like, take risks, right? It's really great, fun, freeing energy, frankly, and I can see how it would be very intimidating to people who are looking to understand you on a more, like, flat level, and especially people who want to get into a romantic situation with you. I get the sense that you might have issues with, like, I get that you are traditionally and classically attractive. There's something about you that is traditionally and classically appealing as far as, like, a relationship goes. And when people try to get involved with you, they realize quickly that you're not someone who can be tied down. You're not someone who can be bogged down by other people's expectations. And it is very disarming for people. It is very, very intimidating for people, especially people who want to continue to try to pursue you, especially romantically. It can be very, very disconcerting for them because you are something that a lot of people have never come across before. You're something that is totally new to a whole lot of people. And we've got the King of Blades, the King of Swords energy here. Yeah, you are someone who is very capable of standing on your own 2 feet. I'm getting very yin-yang energy here, someone who's very, very in control of both your internal feminine energy and your external masculine energy. Like, and I think that I've mentioned this before, when I say feminine and masculine, I mean very yin-yang, feminine internal, masculine external. And so you are someone who is very good at balancing both sides of yourself. And that has also made you someone very capable of defending yourself. I get the sense here of like almost I'm seeing almost like a knight in shining armor, like someone who had to come to their own rescue, someone who really had to step up their game to save themselves almost. I keep hearing the term save themselves. Like I get the sense that you really did go through something that made you have to blossom. It made you have to expand yourself, and you blossomed, you matured into someone so incredible. Like you turned into someone who is so capable of defending yourself, so capable of standing up for what you believe in. The King of Swords is also the most articulate of all of the kings, right? You might be someone who's really good at public speaking. If you don't feel like you're someone who's really good at public speaking, there are definitely people who like hearing you speak. They like to hear what you have to say. And especially if you're someone who is very open about more controversial ideas, or if you're like an activist of any kind, if you're someone who's really open about your ideals, there are people who are very intimidated by your amount of knowledge and by your amount of passion. Those two things together, especially people who are going up against you, it comes off as incredibly intimidating. I wouldn't want to be someone who had to debate you, basically. This is the energy of like a great, great debater, someone who is incredible at public speech. And the Ace of Blades, yeah, the Ace of Swords, definitely someone who's very, very good at articulating themselves. You're someone who people would not want to get into any kind of verbal altercation with. Like, people don't want to argue with you. People don't want to mess with you on like an intellectual level. I get the sense here that people have tried before too. Like, people have tried to like come at you because they assume that you don't know what you're talking about, and they get cut down for their trouble. Like, there's what's coming to mind is a sleeper car. A sleeper car is a car that looks like it's a junker and is incredible under the hood. It's made to look like a car that cannot go as fast and run as well as it can go and run, basically. It is that kind of race car and that kind of street car. And I get that kind of energy here. Like, you're someone who comes off as very, very unassuming almost. This is, again, you might attract people who assume that you're one way. They assume that you're a very unassuming person. They assume that you're very quiet and docile. You're just the Nine of Pentacles woman chilling alone in her garden with her pretty little bird, and they're caught so off guard by what they find. They're caught so off guard by the passion. They're caught so off guard by the freedom that comes from you. Like, you're not afraid to say what's on your mind. You're not afraid to say what needs to be said. And it is so intimidating for people, especially people who are looking for a more traditional, like masculine feminine relationship. If you are someone who identifies as a masculine person as well, I get the sense that you're someone who wants a very, like, you want a partner who's also going to contribute, you know what I mean? Contribute as far as like, you don't want someone who's going to be quiet. You don't want someone who wants you to speak over them. You don't want someone who would want you to order for them at a restaurant, for example. Like, I get the sense that you're someone who really wants an equal partnership, a partnership equal to the amount of energy that you put out as like a very boisterous human being. You know what I mean? Very, very give and take. Very, very, regardless of how you identify, there's a sense here that you're looking for someone in all of your relationships, romantic, platonic. You like to surround yourself with people who are equal to your level of enthusiasm and equal to your level of like free and free-minded. Free-minded comes to mind really strongly here. Even if you're not someone who's like very outgoing, even if you're not someone who's very, very boisterous just in your personality, free-minded, open-minded comes to mind here. You're someone who's very, very open-minded. And the Five of Coins. And it's because you've been through a lot. Again, you've been through a lot. You've had to go through a lot. And for some of you, I'm getting even like one very specific inciting incident. Like, something happened to you that changed, that triggered this kind of blossoming, that triggered this kind of like growth and changing into an entirely different human being. You know what I mean? And it has made you someone who is very intimidating, because you have been to lows that other people have never even thought of. So you're not afraid to say what needs to be said. Like, you've been to the lowest, you've survived the lowest already. What else is anyone going to do to you? What more could anyone put you through? You know what I mean? Like, this is very, very brave energy. You're someone who's not afraid to speak out. You're someone who's not afraid to speak your mind. And with the Five of Coins here, I get that you're someone who's not afraid to speak out for outcasts of society, or for who people who maybe don't have the voice themselves to speak out for themselves. Like, you are someone who is willing to give a voice to the voiceless, basically. And it makes you very intimidating, especially with the King of Blades and the Ace of Blades coming off right here, right before the Five of Coins. It makes you it makes you kind of a wild card. Again, people aren't expecting you. People are already not expecting you to be as educated as you are, or to be as passionate about these things as you are. And then they're not expecting you to be someone so empathetic. I'm getting empathetic towards people who are usually lacking in empathy. Like, this is the energy of an activist. This is the strong energy of someone who has very, very strong opinions and very, very strong social ideals that they're willing to fight for and that you're willing to give voice to. You're not just someone who knows theory and talks the talk. You're someone who is more than willing to walk the walk. You're someone who's more than willing to live what you preach. It makes you very, very intimidating, because it leaves no room for criticism. Like, whether people agree with what you're doing or not, you live what you preach. So they can't accuse you of hypocrisy. They can't accuse you of not understanding what you're asking from people. They can't accuse you of not understanding what people have gone through. You've gone through it. You've come out on the other side. You live what you preach, and it comes off as very, very intimidating for people, especially people who are trying to find holes in what you're talking about, because there are none. You are completely bulletproof after having gone through all of it and lived what you're talking about. And we've got the Two of Cups. And still, on the end, you are still a kind, loving, compassionate person. All of this comes from a place of profound love. You are someone who really cares about what you care about. You're someone who has these ideals, who loves being free, who cares and values what you care and value, because you have this big heart, because you really are, you're not pretending. This passion that you feel isn't pretend. That's how you manage to be so on top of all of it. That's how you manage to be so gung-ho for it, basically. Like, you really do have the passion, and you do really have the love for the things that you talk about and the ideals that you talk about. It makes it very easy for you to walk the walk and not just talk the talk, because you enjoy what you do, because you genuinely believe in what you do. It all comes from a place of profound love, and it all comes from a place of profound care. So it's not difficult for you to live the kind of life that you talk about living. And the Sun at the bottom of the deck. And it makes you happy. At the end of the day, this all makes you happy. You're someone who is very happy to do this. You're someone who, I get the sense that you're someone who, it would be more painful for you to not speak your mind. It would be more painful for you to not get involved with situations where, like, to see injustice happening in your eyes, it would be more painful and more difficult for you to not get involved with a situation like that than for you to get involved with a situation like that. Like, you are a very kind, generous, big-hearted person, and ultimately, I think that leads a lot of what you do. You might be someone who's been accused of following your heart, not your head, which is ironic, because again, I I think those kinds of accusations come from people who don't know you. Again, people who are underestimating you. It comes back to the King of Swords and the Ace of Swords, right? Like people who don't think that you have the knowledge to back up all of the passion that you feel. You are too gung-ho, you're too naive, right? Like you can't possibly know what you're talking about. And then you come back with knowledge, you come back on the ball, you come back knowing what you're talking about. It catches people off guard, and it really seriously intimidates people. I get the sense that people, they'll go up against you once and then they never make the mistake of underestimating you again. They try never to make that mistake again. So they end up putting you in a category all your own. Like you intimidate people, especially the people you intimidate the most are people who you have had to put in their place because they put themselves in situations where you had to. People who put themselves in situations where you were debating with them, or put themselves in situations where they questioned your knowledge. Like the people you intimidate the most are people who have been exposed to the fact that you are in fact a very intimidating presence. All right, these are my trope cards. I'm still adding cards to them, but I did really want to use them for this reading. They also kind of give away what a nerd I am, but we won't talk about that, I guess. You're very easy to talk to. The fact that I just went off on that mini tangent already. You're very easy to talk to. I get the sense that people can be... You're the kind of person who people will, like, divulge tons of information about themselves to out of nowhere. Like, you might be someone who just kind of attracts that kind of energy and that kind of emotion, basically, from people. And people after these conversations will be like, I don't know why I did that. Like there's something very disarming about your energy. You're a very easy person to talk to. And again, this makes it easy for people to forget that you are also you can be a very ruthless like you can have very ruthless speech when you want to. And we've got Dede Dede. Cheerful, almost impossible to rain on their parade, in love with love, wants others to be happy, romantic and earnest. Wants others to be happy. Again, everything, all of your ideals, these come from a place of really wanting others to be happy, of really wanting a fair world, of really wanting, of justice. Like this all comes from a place of profound moral integrity, right? Like you believe in the stuff that you say, and you believe in in the things that you preach. It's why it's easy for you to be very cheerful. Again, cheerful, almost impossible to rain on their parade, in love with love, romantic, earnest. Like these facts about you make it very easy for people to underestimate you. And when they underestimate you, they are soundly put back into their place every single time. And it makes you so intimidating, especially to the people that have seen it. Like there are people who see this kind of stuff happen. Like there are people in the surroundings who watch you put people back into their place, and they're just kind of like, I wouldn't want to be you. Like you have a very, I get the feeling that you have the kind of reputation where people are like, yeah, don't underestimate them. They're really nice until they aren't. They're really nice until they aren't. And we've got the trusty sidekick, extremely loyal to both their beliefs and the people they believe in. Encouraging, amazing friend, team player, good sense of humor, especially in tough spots. Extremely loyal to both their beliefs and the people they believe in, kind of reaffirms everything that we've been talking about. But what stands out here a lot is team player. On top of all of this, and that makes sense too, because it's easy to underestimate someone who's not actively trying to be the leader in a situation. You don't go looking for the spotlight. You don't mind taking the back seat. You don't mind hanging out in the background and helping things move the way that they have to move. It's easy for you to, you don't demand credit for the things that you do, basically. Like, it's easy for you to go with the flow. And it makes it very easy for people to underestimate you. This is another reason why it's very easy for people to underestimate you. And it's very, very easy for them to fall into this trap where they end up having to be, again, soundly put back into their place because you are not someone who they should mess with. Kind until they're not anymore. And we've got the pretty boy girl. Yeah, and you're very physically attractive. The Two of Cups coming out here at the very end of your 5 line kind of confirm that too. You're very physically attractive. On top of all of this, I am getting a sense of almost like people can take your cheerfulness along with the fact that you are an attractive person, along with the fact that they are attracted to you. And I think that that's actually an important thing to note here, right? Like, people can take the fact that you are both a cheerful, happy person and the fact that they themselves find you to be appealing, and they themselves have certain beliefs about the people who they find to be appealing, and they attach both of those things together and they kind of assume that you're a little bit ditzy. You might have had issues with people making those kinds of assumptions about you. And honestly, it's just because you're attractive. Like, people find you to be very attractive. There are people who are very intimidated by the fact that they find you to be very attractive. There are people who are very, very intimidated, especially just out in the world. I'm getting, like, when you're just walking around, when you're just enjoying your life. I get that you probably have a really nice smile. I am getting a very nice smile. Like, you are someone who, especially when you're out in the world, people will kind of like double take. There's just something magnetic about you in like this very, very sunny, glowy way. And it makes you intimidating. Like, these people who would do double takes, I don't think that they would ever walk up to you though. There's just something so untouchable about that kind of attraction. There's something so untouchable about that kind of person, really. There's something that comes off of you, not innocent, not naive, but just bright. Like, I can get how people would mistake that kind of energy as innocent or as naive or as someone who hasn't really lived the life as much as they have or whatever. You know what I mean? You are just a very bright human being. You are a ray of sunshine. You are a ray of sunshine in an ever dimming world. Some people respond really well to that, and some people, that light can be triggering for them. They can get like agitated by it. These are the people who are most intimidated by your light. They're intimidated by how it makes them feel, by the agitation it makes them feel. Because really, there's nothing there's nothing that should make a person reevaluate themselves more than disliking someone else because they are happy. Like, don't get me wrong, there are situations, every situation is unique, obviously, but like, there is something very, very special about the kind of person who would actively dislike someone just because they are happy doing something that is hurting nobody and causing nobody issue. Like, being off put by happiness is a very weird trait, and it's something that people should definitely reevaluate about themselves. And I think that you are someone who causes that kind of agitation in people. You're someone who, if people are self-reflective enough, they will sit and they will think and be like, okay, why does this person's sunshine trigger me so much? And we've got extremely physically attractive, eye-catching, the center of attention, naturally charming, socially popular, well-known, and well-liked. You're a very lovable person. Like, I get that you're just a very, very lovable person. And with the center of attention there, I get that you might be someone who you've had issues with, like, you might have had issues with jealousy in the past or with competition in the past, because again, I don't think that you're someone who needs to be in the spotlight. I don't think that you're someone who needs to be constantly getting accolades. I think that there was a point in your life where you had to grow out of that kind of thing, and it wraps back around to the very beginning of your reading where, like, now you don't care what anyone has to say about you or what anyone's opinion is about you. It really doesn't matter anymore. So, like, being the center of attention isn't important to you. It's not your fault that you're eye-catching. It's not your fault that when you walk down the road there are people who stop and stare at you. Like, that's not your fault. But there are people who will act like it's your fault. There are people who will try to fight you for the center of attention that you're not even trying to have, basically. All right, what more can we know, please, about why people find you intimidating? And we've got the explorer, adventurous, always ready to try new things, believes in all people's right to freedom and individuality. Unafraid and brave, naturally curious, self-motivated. I feel like that accurately sums up a lot of what we've been talking about. Adventurous wraps back around. I get again that feeling of freedom. Again, I think I mentioned at the very beginning of your reading, there's this sense here that like you might attract some people who you might have attracted people, especially romantically people, who feel like they need to cage you to have you. And that might have been like a really big problem with your romances, frankly, because I get the sense here that you aren't someone who can be caged. You're not someone who can be put in a box like that, regardless of how much you love someone. And there's a lot of energy here of love. Like you are a very loving person between the Two of Cups and the Dere at the very beginning of these cards. Like you are a very loving, wonderful person. But I think that you love your freedom more than you could ever really love another person who would try to take it away from you. And I think that that, especially in romantic situations, is very, very intimidating. People going into relationships with you have to be aware of the fact that, like, either they need to be respectful of the distance that you need and the space that you need and the freedoms that you need, especially in regards to the beliefs that you hold and the ideals that you have. They either need to be respectful of all of that, or they need to accept that it'll never work out. You're never going to choose them over your beliefs, and you're never going to choose them over your freedom. And we've got the magician creator, fully harnessed personal empowerment, morally ambiguous, operates according to personal beliefs, accidental leader, unafraid in the face of uncertainty, takes destiny into their own hands, makes change. So makes change and accidental leader both come out really strongly there. Also operates according to their personal beliefs. Again, you have a very strong personal moral compass that you follow regardless of what's happening around you, right? But accidental leader, we're back to that sense that, like, even though you don't want to be in the spotlight, you are very often put in the spotlight. And that is very intimidating to people. The fact that you're constantly put into the spotlight and you don't even try, that can be very, very intimidating to people. Takes destiny into their own hands and makes change. People have also seen you make major changes in your life. They've seen you make major changes in your lifetime. And your ability to, I'm getting strong manifesting energy. Your ability to manifest, the ability that you have to like create the world around you, it can be really intimidating to people, especially people who feel like they don't have that kind of power in their own lives. People who feel like they wouldn't even know where to start to have that kind of power in their own lives. And we've got INTJ, introversion, intuition, thinking, and judging. Rational, quiet, introverted, prefers to work alone, strategist, critical mind, can have trouble forming relationships, high expectations, perfectionist, quick thinkers, determined, independent, conceptual thinkers. So what sticks out the most there is determined, independent, and conceptual thinkers. Again, you are someone who is very good. We're back to the King of Swords and the Ace of Swords. You're someone who's very good at putting very abstract ideas into words. You're someone who's very good at putting like very vague thought processes into actual concrete things, like steps that people can follow. You are a very, very good leader, but it's kind of totally on accident, because I don't get the sense that you like being a leader a whole lot of the time. I think that that's a lot of pressure that you might not like always having on your shoulders. All right, loves, that is what I've got for you. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope it was fun. I hope it was enlightening. I will see you next time. Bye. All right, and we are on pile 3 with the 10 of clubs. So already, people are really intimidated by you because you're a very hard worker. And not just a very hard worker, but someone who never seems to get tired of the work that you do. Like, if you are a physical laborer, like if you work in physical labor, even if you don't, if you're someone who like works out at the gym a lot, people are incredibly people find your physique to be very nice. I'm trying to I'm trying to find the best way to put this. Like if you're someone who is actively like doing manual work or you're in the gym a whole lot, it's working out. People have been noticing. People are very intimidated by your physique in like the best way possible, basically. If that's not the case for you, just in general for everyone, people are very intimidated by the fact that it never seems to be too much. Like, especially if you work in a team situation, your coworkers are constantly just like floored by the fact that you never seem to be overwhelmed by your work. You never seem to be caught off guard by the work that you do. And when you are caught off guard by the work that you do, when you are at a point where you're overwhelmed or you're reaching what would appear to be a critical point, basically like critical mass, people are concerned about it. Like it's something that actually concerns people. When you start feeling a certain way, when you start being overwhelmed, that's like people's sign that something's definitely not right. All right. These cards are a little bit too big for my hands, so I have to shuffle them kind of awkward. So don't mind me like slipping and sliding with them all over the place. I'm getting, and this would seem to be the theme for this particular reading. I'm getting strong Leo energy here. There's a lot of fire energy here. You might be someone who people like babble to, like people might find themselves very often like getting lost in talking to you. You're someone who people might embarrass themselves around very often. Like people find you to be very attractive. There's something very, very attractive about you. And it's the kind of like, I'm getting almost schoolyard attraction, like the kind of thing where people like will embarrass themselves in front of you and be like, of course I did that in front of that person. Like people, I'm getting like secret admirers, crushes. Like you definitely have secret admirers. You definitely have people who like have a little bit of a crush on you. I get the sense that you are very focused on your work, however, and you might be someone who like relationships aren't really in your cards right now just because you're very, very busy. If that's the case, you're definitely getting the sign. This is your sign to enjoy your life a little bit. You deserve to relax. It feels like you're a very, very hard worker. And no one should work themselves to death, right? Like, you deserve to relax and you deserve to enjoy your life. If you've been overworking yourself recently, this is your sign that you should take a day to really take care of yourself. I know that this video should go up on a Thursday. It's timeless, so that message is timeless. But enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the next day that you have off. Enjoy the next night that you have off. Try not to focus so much on the work and try not to focus so much on the pressure that's on you. I do get the sense that for a lot of you, you are kind of like a de facto leader in some part of your life. So you might deal with a lot of pressure on a regular basis. Try to give yourself some time to relax from that kind of pressure. Everyone needs some time to unwind. All right. What more can we know, please? about why people are intimidated by you. All right. Why are people intimidated by you? And we've got the Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, you're a very, very hard worker. You're someone who probably believes in making a change. Like, what comes to mind is, fuck it, I'll do it myself. Basically, that kind of energy. Like, definitely someone who you don't hit the end and then take or accept the dead end. You're someone who will find a way around. You're someone who will find a workaround. You are not easily off put from your mission at all. And that level of dedication, that level of drive, it's very intimidating to people, especially people who are feeling competitive with you, because I do get the sense that for a lot of you, the reason why you live with so much pressure on you is because in some aspect of your life there's like a really heavy competitive area, or in some area of your life there's a really heavy competitive aspect. People who compete with you, they find this drive, this dedication to be incredibly, extraordinarily intimidating. I get the kind of energy of someone who like cannot be deterred, someone who will work day and night if they have to. That's why you got the message to like take a moment and really breathe and relax, because you're someone who will spend all day and night working until you get what you're going for. And people find that kind of dedication, people find that kind of willingness to change things, that kind of drive to like make the difference. They find it incredibly intimidating. You are someone that I get is a really good team leader, but I get part of why you're a good team leader is because you're more than willing to take all of the weight onto your own back and make it work. Like, whether you have a good team or not, you will succeed because you're more than willing to be the only person working if that's what it takes for you to succeed. Yeah, the dragon. This is the devil card in this deck. You are an incredibly hard worker. You're someone who the dragon, the devil, speaks of passion to the point almost of obsession, passion to the point almost of being like enslaved to that kind of passion, right? This is again why you're getting that message that if you have been overworking yourself recently, you have to take a break and like think about eating, drinking water, taking a nap, talking to a friend. Like, this is definitely the energy of someone who can be so passionate about the stuff that you get involved in, so passionate about the projects that you have going on, that like almost nothing else and no one else matters when you're really in the zone. And that is super intimidating to people. People find that to be very intimidating. This devil is depicted by a CEO overlooking two workers. The traditional devil is like a devil holding chains to a couple, basically a chained up couple. Both of them get across this energy of like one person overlooking other people, basically, and having some kind of control over other people. Again, I get the sense that you're someone who people see almost in like, you might be someone who's regularly put on a pedestal, like especially people who work under you, especially people who look up to you for any sort of guidance. They idealize you a little bit. There can be a sense of like heavy intimidation. The people who work under you, the people who like look up to you as like a mentor figure or anything like that, they're heavily intimidated by the work that you put in and how passionate you can be about the things that you do. The Hierophant. So that's three major arcana cards so far. The Hierophant card is also represented by the higher power here, or a bank. People are very intimidated between all three of these cards, between the Wheel of Fortune, the Devil, and the Hierophant now. People are intimidated by your financial situation. If you are not someone who is in a really, really good financial situation, people definitely think that you are, or they think that you're on your way to being in a really great financial situation. You look like money. There's this sense here that like you look like $1 million, you look like you're valuable, and it makes it very, very intimidating for people. You also value everything that you do. There's definitely the sense that you value everything that you do. That's why there's so much passion and dedication to the work, right? Like, it's intimidating for people who want to work with you or want to assist you in your goals because they don't want to get in your way. And there is a little bit of intimidation here and a feeling of like people are afraid of what will happen to them if they get in your way. Like, this is probably the pile that's had the most flat out, like, actually intimidating aura so far. Like, there are people who are genuinely incredibly intimidated by you in the sense of like they would not want to get in your way. They wouldn't want to disappoint you. Basically, there are definitely people who don't want to disappoint you. Disappointing you terrifies some people almost. Like, they're very, very intimidated by you. There are a lot of people who I think want your approval, especially if you are a leader, especially if you're someone who works in charge of other people. There are a lot of people who want your approval and a lot of people that want validation from you. People just hold your opinion in incredibly high regard, much like how you look like money. Your words are also money. Like, your opinion, more than 2 cents. Like, people really value what you have to say and people really value your input, but it can be really intimidating even to approach you for that input. It can be really intimidating even to approach you for any kind of assistance. People view you as a wild card. There are definitely people who view you as a little bit of a wild card. Like, people who know that this passion isn't a bad thing, because I'm not getting the sense that passion is a bad thing. The Hierophant traditionally is another card where there's a pope and two apostles under him. It's another card just like the devil card that involves one higher person with two people below them. Like, they're just people who look up to you a lot. And I don't think that you are necessarily a bad, like, I don't, not bad, but I don't think that you're like really, really rough on these people. But I do think that people idealize you to a point where it can be almost scary for them to imagine you being disappointed or imagine what you would say if you didn't accept them or their work. Like, there are people who are really, really afraid of rejection from you, especially in a work environment, especially in any kind of like environment where you are judging their work or you're judging their output. People are incredibly intimidated by you and really, really, the word afraid even keeps coming out. There are people who are genuinely afraid about what your opinion would be on what they're doing. I'm even getting that there are people from like your past who like they look back on you and they look back on your work ethic and they look back on everything that they know about you, and they think about themselves now and they think like, damn, where I wonder what they would think of where I am now. I wonder what they would say about what I'm doing now. Like, I feel like for some of you there are definitely people from your past who like they're out of your life, but whether they watch you or not, and I do get the sense that for some of you there are people who like keep tabs on you, but whether they do or not, I there are people from your past who like when they think of you and they think of how hard you work and they think of everything that they know you're going to do in this lifetime, they can't help but be like, what am I doing? What would they say about me? What would their opinion be about me now? Like, there's a sense here that there are people who being with you, especially romantically, but not only romantically, platonically, and especially in a work or creative environment, there are people who believe that being around you was their peak. That was as good as they were going to get. That was as good as things were going to get for them in that regard to their life. So they can't help but look back on you and compare where they are now to where they were then. And even people who would arguably be further along in their life, they feel like they were more motivated when they knew you. They feel like they were more supported when they knew you. They can't help but feel like if you were involved with their lives now, they would be even further ahead. You have a very strong impact on the people around you. And that kind of impact is very intimidating. Again, people are just very afraid of disappointing you. They're very afraid of your rejection. The Three of Blades. Yeah, the Three of Swords. People are terrified of what would happen if you were to reject them. They really think that it would be a heartbreaking experience to have you reject them and to have you say, especially I'm getting like even in like judging work or anything like that. Like people just value your opinion so much. It would be a devastating occurrence to have you look down on them or to have you reject their work or to have you be disappointed in what they present to you. And the Two of Batons. And it's really interesting because these people, the Two of Batons is about looking forward, especially the people who are most concerned with getting your approval and most convinced that they need your approval, especially with those people. They seem to know that you're far more focused on yourself than you could ever be on anyone else. Like you're far more focused on your own beliefs. Like with the Hierophant exactly at the middle of your 5 card spread, you're far more focused on what you believe in and what's going on with you than you could be with anyone else's stuff. Like this is part of what comes with being someone who's willing to do all the work, right? Like you can't be disappointed by people because if someone were to come to you and be like, "Hey, I screwed up," you would very readily be like, "Okay, I'll fix it. Don't worry about it. I'll fix it." Like you might be even someone who can come off a little bit blunt in those situations, like someone who can come off as like being a little bit nitpicky, even like you prefer to do your work yourself because you don't like being disappointed either. Like you don't like being put in situations where you know you could have done the work and you know you could have had this all done and you trusted it to someone else and they let you down. Like I don't think that you're an easy person to disappoint. I think people are super, super afraid of disappointing you. And ultimately, it hurts them to even think about it because you don't they don't matter to you as much as you matter to them. Their opinion does not matter to you the way that your opinion matters to them. Like there's an imbalance here that is reflected in both the Devil and the Hierophant and how they both depict a powerful person over two less powerful people. Like there's a power imbalance here that people get that is just heavily intimidating to them when they think about you. And the Tower at the bottom of the deck, yeah, it would be life shattering, world ending for people to have you be disappointed in them. For some people, it would be absolutely world ending. And honestly, I think that a lot of these people are in your past. I think that a lot of the people who are most intimidated by you are people who want to come back into your life from your past. People who have recognized at this point that like the best part of their lives were with you. The times that they were strongest, the times that they were at their best, it was with you. And they really want your influence back in their life. I'm getting the sense almost of like people who want advice from you. I am right outside of the holiday season, like literally weeks away from Christmas. Um, and that also means weeks away from the new year. This reading is timeless, but sometime within the next few weeks, expect some kind of blast from your past. Expect some kind of request for assistance. Even I'm getting like expect something a little bit jarring to come, a message to come from someone who hasn't been involved in your life for a while, or a message from someone who really wants your advice. Basically, expect a message that will surprise you sometime within the next couple weeks, and a message that will confirm the fact that people find you to be not just intimidating, but someone worth getting the opinion of. People value your opinion, and sometime within the next couple of weeks, you're going to get confirmation of that. All right, these are trope cards that I just started making. I think I'm still going to add more to them, but I did want to use them today. They do kind of out me as a little bit of a nerd, though. So. All right. What more can we know, please, about why people are intimidated by you? What about you do people find to be intimidating? You might be someone who comes off as, you might be someone who can come off a little bit short. I think that you're someone who just values your time. I'm even getting time is money energy. Like, you're someone who values your time, you value your energy. And what can be intimidating about that is how, when you value your time and you're really open about how you value your time, when people come to you asking for your assistance or asking for stuff from you, they also need to be hyper aware of valuing your time. Otherwise, it won't work, right? Like, and it makes people, especially people who are intimidated by you, hyper aware of wasting your time. Like, it adds to this weird anxiety that people have about like wasting your time, disappointing you, being rejected by you. Like, it definitely feels like you're someone who sits in a sort of, in some kind of position of authority over people, and the people who you have authority over are just so intimidated by you. It comes from a place of respect, though. It does come from a place of serious respect. I'm even getting that there are people who want to be like you. There are people who like really enjoy just kind of basking in your glow, because even with all of the intimidation, even with the kind of anxiety that can come with thinking that they're going to disappoint you, it's all worth it, because being around you is worth it. Like, you are someone who makes people grow, you're someone who encourages people to grow, and you're someone who can be very, very supportive to people who are actively putting in the work. Like, I am getting a sense here that like it can be very easy for you to write people off. Like, if someone isn't trying, if someone isn't putting in the work, if someone is actively doing the exact opposite of what they need to do to succeed, it can be very easy for you to be like, I don't care if you don't care. Like, if you're not going to care about your success, I'm not going to care about your success. Why the hell should I? Like, I think it can be very easy for you to write people off, and I don't think that that's a bad thing at all. I do think that people can misread it as being hard to get close to, though, when the actuality of the fact is you just don't like being around people who don't value their own time. Like, you heavily value your time, you heavily value your energy. If people around you don't value their own time, don't value their own energy, how the hell can you expect them to value yours? You know what I mean? And I think that's a lesson that you had to learn. That's a lesson that also taught you to be really self-sufficient, taught you to be willing to do all of the work if you had to. People find it to be very, very intimidating. And we've got the girl next door, traditional to the extent of being restrained, boring, unadventurous, dislikes change, desires normality and routine. So what I get is routine out of that, and traditional. Traditional matches the Hierophant here. So what intimidates people about you is the fact that everything about you seems to be something that they can achieve if only they were to work harder. Something about you is very, very relatable, and that's part of why people are so afraid of disappointing you. Like, there's this sense here that you have done the thing, so they should be able to do the thing. And there is a little bit of the feeling that people think that that's how you expect them to be. Like, whether that's true or not, there are definitely people who, like, they've watched you, they've watched how you work. You're very open about how you work. You know what I mean? The girl next door is someone you grow up next to. The girl next door is someone who's just always there, right? Like, you're very open about how you work. I don't think that you have tricks. I don't think that you have any kind of, like, you're just a very hard worker. Like, boring, unadventurous, dislikes change. I don't think that has anything to do with your personality outside of the fact that you are a very relentless, hard worker. You're someone who, rain or shine, day or night, you will do the work if that is what is required for you to get the success that you are hoping to achieve. You will put in all of that very traditional style, you know what I mean? No tricks, no gimmicks, just someone who is very, very willing to put in the work that they need to put in to succeed. And That is so intimidating to people who feel like they should be able to do that and they just can't. Whether you put that kind of pressure on people or not, it is pressure that people put on themselves just by being around you. If you can do it, they should be able to do it because there's nothing different about what you're doing. You're open about the process, you're open about all the work that you put in. You work really, really hard openly. It should be something that should be achievable. And it can be really easy for people to take that and put that kind of pressure on themselves and then redirect it to you. Whether you are putting that pressure on people or not, people find it very intimidating that you are such a hard worker. And that really is the trick to it. Like, there are no other gimmicks or tricks to it. Like, you're a hard worker. That's it. It's very, very intimidating to people who want there to be some kind of trick to make it anything other than hard work. ISTP, introversion, sensing, thinking, and perceiving. Artesian, flexible, adaptable, comfortable in a crisis. Crafter, forward thinker, tolerant, logical. Quiet, seeks efficiency and precision. Doesn't like wasting time, unafraid of new experiences. Yep, seeks efficiency and proficiency and precision and doesn't like wasting time. Both of those things stand out the most, along with introversion. I think that it's easy for people to not misread, but project their own fears onto you about how you will respond to their work or how you will respond to them in general, because you are a very introverted person. And that comes with being a really hard worker. That comes with being someone who is focused most on what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, you like to cause change in a very reliable manner in your own life. You're constantly progressing, which means change is constantly happening, right? And you are someone who is very good at keeping all of that in order. You're someone who's very good at keeping your work and your life in order, or at least that's how it looks. People are really intimidated by that. Again, people feel like if you can do something, they should be able to do it. There's something very achievable and relatable about you, which is it clashes so hard with this energy of people who are terrified of disappointing you, but they go hand in hand. You are so relatable that people should be able to relate to you, but you are such a hard worker, and it takes so much dedication to do what you do and be who you be, that it's very hard to find people who can relate to that, frankly. And I think on the surface, people see you and they take a lot of inspiration from you. And then it can get to the point for some people where it's no longer inspiring, it's just really, really intimidating because they're not doing as well as they think they should be doing, and they're not doing as well as they thought they would be doing just by watching you do the thing. You know what I mean? And for a lot of people, the thing is life. It's literally just how you live your life. Like, this isn't about any specific aspect of your life. You're a hard worker in every aspect of your life. You've gotten through life by being a very dedicated hard worker in every aspect of your life. This is the energy of someone who wasn't handed a damn thing, and no one can accuse you of being handed anything. Like, you are a very, very hard worker. And it's it can be very, like, people I think skip over jealousy even for you a lot, because again, I think you've been through it. I don't think that you were handed anything. And I think it makes people skip over the jealousy and go straight to the intimidation. Like, people are just profoundly intimidated by your success because it seems so achievable, but it's not. And we've got Dede Dede, cheerful, almost impossible to rain on their parade, in love with love, wants others to be happy, romantic and earnest. Wants others to be happy. At the end of the day, I do think that you're someone who just really wants to help people. I think the reason why people are even aware of how hard you work and how I think people know that they can go to you for help. I think that's how a lot of your relationships start. And it grows into this thing where people are, again, I think you're very approachable. I think that you're a very approachable person. I think that your story is very relatable. And it grows into something that people take to be very, very intimidating, but it's all really genuinely internally based. It's projection. I think you deal with a lot of people's projection of their own not failings, but what they would perceive to be shortcomings. INFJ, introversion, intuition, feeling, and judging. Idealist, passionate, people-oriented, empathetic, counselor, meditator, mediator, conscientious, big picture, creative, rich inner life, emotionally driven, strong desire to connect to people, abstract ideals, and artistic. Strong desire to connect to people stands out the most there. Again, I think that you are a very relatable person. I think that you're a very relatable person. And on the exact opposite end of that, I think that you are such a hard worker that there are very few people who genuinely can relate to that aspect of you. Those two sides of you, it's very conflicting energy that manages to meld together perfectly, and that's just yet another thing that confuses people about you and genuinely very much intimidates them about you, especially when they're trying to get close to you. I think a lot of people hit a wall when trying to get close to you because they start thinking that you're one way and then they realize that, like, no, actually you just make this look easy. It's hard. It's really hard. It takes a lot of dedication. It's it's great energy. Make sure to take care of yourself, though. And that is what I've got for you today, loves. Thank you so much for being here with me. I hope it was fun. I hope it was enlightening. I will see you next time. Bye. All right, and last but certainly not least, we've got the pile 4 with the 8 of diamonds. You're very talented. That seems to have been a very strong theme. You guys are all very talented. You're very, very talented. And you're very... I'm getting the sense of a perfectionist even. Like, I think that you demand perfection from yourself in probably most aspects of your life. And that can be very intimidating, especially for the people around you, like the people in your life. They can be very intimidated by the standards you set for yourself. Because what does that say about the standards that you set for them? Like, whether you do hold other people to the standards you hold yourself to or not, those standards are very intimidating to people because they can't help but also compare themselves to the standards that you hold yourself to. You know what I mean? Like, if you're someone who regularly talks about, like, as an example, right? If you're someone who has really, really intense gym goals, someone who is in the gym a lot, someone who is regularly working out and has very specific goals for working out, and you talk to your friends who are not into working out like that about it, you may have had issues with, like, those kinds of friends feeling like they aren't good enough now. Like, they get uncomfortable when you talk about your thing around them because it makes them feel unhappy with their progress in that aspect. Like, in the gym example, if these friends were to start making snide comments about how, well, they don't work out or anything like that, as if you were trying to make them work out or feel bad about not working out, like that kind of thing. I do get the sense that you might deal with having to, like, remind people that, like, you're not holding anyone else to the standards you hold yourself to. You might just be a little bit of a perfectionist, and you might have very, very high standards for yourself that you're really open about. What more can we know, please, about why people find you intimidating? Why are people intimidated by you? Why are people intimidated by you? And we've got the 6 of Blades. And I get the sense that you're very tactful about this kind of thing. You're someone who can't be bogged down by other people's, like, When people get weird about your own perfectionist tendencies, when people get weird about your goals for yourself or what you have set out to do, you're very good at just moving past that. I get like you're very good at mentally focusing yourself. It's very hard to put you off your course. And that can be very intimidating for people. It can be very off-putting for people too, especially people. You might have issues with competition. That's what has been trying to come out this whole time. You might have issues with competition. You might have issues, especially with like really weird frenemy situations where like your friends try to compete with you in like aspects of your life where there is no competition. You're really just trying to better yourself even. I get the sense that you're someone who is very good at letting those kinds of situations just kind of roll off your back. Because what other choice do you really have at the end of the day, right? Like you're someone who is very tactful and you don't take the bait when people try to bait you into like arguments or when people try to bait you into like really uncomfortable conversations or try to trap you into making it sound like you are pushing your own ideals off on anyone else. You're very tactful in how you separate yourself from these situations. At the Two of Blades, and you're very patient. You're very patient with these people. That might be why you even have frenemy situations at all, because regardless of the fact that these people can sometimes act weirdly, you're still very patient with them and you're still more than willing to let these people live in your life. At the end of the day, you seem to be a very humble person. That's part of why it's so easy for you to just kind of let all of this roll off your shoulder, right? You're a very humble person. You're not trying to brag about anything. You're not trying to force any of your ideals or your goals off on any other people. Like, you're a very humble person who's just very goal oriented and very, very focused on yourself. And so to allow, it's easy for you to just kind of move past negativity that's being directed at you, to move on to something else. The Queen of Batons, the Queen of Wands, and it makes you look so regal. Like there's something very regal about that. When people try to put you down, it always backfires on them. When people try to make you look like you're acting a certain way, or diva, specifically diva, when people try to make you look or sound like you're acting like a diva or behaving like a diva, you might have had issues in your childhood with your family accusing you of being like a drama queen, or like your friends accusing you of over exaggerating or overreacting to stuff. Like when you get accused of being like a diva, you're very good at centering yourself, and I think for a lot of you even like laughing it off, moving on like that, like you don't take the bait. When people try to bait you, you do not take the bait. You're very, very graceful and you're very, very cognizant of how you hold yourself. And it's really intimidating and very, very off-putting to people. It makes people look dumb. There's no other way to put it. Like it makes people who try to put you in bad situations or make you look a certain way, it makes them look really dumb. It makes them look like they're haters because that's what they are. That's how they're behaving. You know what I mean? And there's no getting around that. There's no arguing that that's not what's going on. It's really obvious to everyone in the vicinity. You hold yourself really well, especially in conversations or situations where people are trying to throw you off your game. Very, very self-focused, very, very self-motivated. It's very, very difficult to disrupt you. And the Page of Blades, and the Page of Blades is the Page of Swords. The Page of Swords is the social media spy card. People are intimidated by your public image, basically. Like people who don't know you, they're very, very intimidated by what your public image is. You come off as someone very humble. You come off as someone who feels like you still have work to do, feels like you are still evolving and growing, especially if you have like a really, really intense public image though. Like if you're an influencer, if you're someone who works in the public eye, if you work in communications at all, like you have a very, very regal public image. And that might be, even if it's not like even if we're just talking about your public image among your friends, this kind of thing is why people try to put you off your game so much. Because I think there are people who would really like to knock you down a peg, which frankly is kind of pathetic. Like, there are people who like wait for moments or wait for opportunities to try and make you seem lesser than, and you always come out shining, you always come out on top, you always come out looking really, really good, because ultimately you're not focusing on these people, you're really good at just letting it roll off your back. So anyone who's watching, it makes these people seem like a page to your queen. It makes you seem so much more regal and them seem so much more childish. This is also your warning that there are likely people who have been haunting your social media pages. You might be someone who deals with like people who you've blocked, making like fake accounts and following you. If you've been getting like really weird, random views on like your stories or messages from people that make no sense, like there's the possibility that there are people who have been like making fake accounts or like telling people to keep tabs on you, because people who you've cut out of your life are still very, very curious about you. That's definitely the energy coming through here with the Six of Swords starting off your reading and that moving on energy. There's definitely the sense that some of the people who are most intimidated by you are people who you've cut out of your life. They're people who you have had to axe out of your life. And I think that these are also people who weren't expecting you to be so adamant about kicking them out of your life. Like, I do get the sense here that as a very humble person, as a very, very, I get even delicate. Like, you're very delicate in your manner. Like, it's how you manage to be so diplomatic when people are coming at you crazy. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of regardless of that aspect of yourself. Sorry about that, guys. Almost. We were almost through. That was a phone call I had to take. As I was saying, regardless of the fact that you are someone who holds yourself very well, when it comes to cutting people out of your life, I think that you axe people. I think that you are very good at cutting people out of your life. And I think that for a lot of these people, they just kind of assume that you won't be so adamant about it. Like, they assume that because you're so diplomatic in so many other aspects of your life, this is also a place in your life where you'll be diplomatic about it. And the fact of the matter is, that's not the case. Like, when you go to cut people out of your life, I think that you are very good at axing them out. And just be aware that there are definitely people from your past who are keeping tabs on you and are still very intimidated by you. Like, I think that's part of why these people like make fake accounts and stuff. Part of why they haven't approached you again yet. It's because they know that you won't give them a second chance. They know that at the end of the day, you're not going to give them a second chance. So the best that they can have is just Page of Swords energy watching you shine from afar. And it's not a coincidence that the middle of your spread is the Queen of Wands. Even with all of this really humble energy, you shine. Part of why you're so intimidating is just that you shine. You're very, very, I'm getting almost glow. Like, there's something very naturally radiant about you. People are naturally attracted to this inner radiance that comes from you. There's something very wholesome about it. Like, wholesome is kind of a weird word to attach to that, but there's definitely something very, very wholesome about it. And the Four of Coins. Yeah, homey. Wholesome as in homey. That's the word that I was looking for. The Four of Coins is about having a stable base. It's about having like security at your home base, right? It can even lean a little bit towards being like protective or possessive of that security in your home base. Like, you you are someone who people you're someone who naturally attracts people. I think you make people feel at home. There's something very homey and very, very warm about your energy. And I think that light, that brightness that comes from your energy, It can be very, very triggering for some people. I think that's part of why you deal with people trying to knock you down a peg. It's because they sense this light and they see this light in you, and they don't understand that that's just kind of something that comes naturally from you. Like, there's no dimming it. They can't dim it. I think that there have been many people in your life who have tried to dim your light, and they've had to come to the same realization over and over again. There's no dimming it. You are meant to shine. You're meant to shine very, very brightly, in fact. And we've got the King of Blades at the bottom of the deck. And the King of Blades matches the Queen of Wands in a very, very balanced way. To match the fact that you are this very warm, welcoming person with the Queen of Wands energy, this very, very glowing, radiant person, you also have King of Swords energy, where again, it comes back to the fact that you're willing to cut people out of your life if that's what it takes. You're willing to really put up boundaries and set clear, discernible boundaries with people who you no longer want in your life. And I think especially people who have seen you do that, people who have seen that side of you, because I don't think that's a side of you that comes out very, very often. Again, I think for the most part, you're just I think for the most part, you're someone who's very, very focused on your own self-improvement. You're very focused on your own. I still get the energy of a perfectionist, someone who's very focused, too focused even, on their own self-improvement to really give people who are trying to knock you down a peg the time of day. There's no place to knock you down to because you're just existing where you exist. You know what I mean? You don't think that you're higher than anyone else. It's not your fault that these people see you as higher than other people, because that's what's going on there. They're projecting how much they're idealizing you onto you, and that's not your fault. That you have this King of Swords energy that allows you to really set up boundaries and really, really tell people that when you're done with them, you're done with them. And that is really intimidating to people. It makes people, especially the people still around you, it can make people nervous. It can make people think twice about how they interact with you, especially people who may have been taking you for granted, may have been not treating you the best, not treating you awfully, but like maybe friends or family that like have been taking you for granted. When they see you cut people out of your life, when they're reminded of the fact that you have it in you to be very, very vicious, it makes people reevaluate. It makes people rethink how they're dealing with you and how they're thinking about you and how they're treating you specifically. Very balanced energy. It's why you're so good at letting people's comments and letting people's weird little remarks roll off your back. All right. What more can we know, please, about why others are intimidated by you? What about you intimidates other people? As a side message, between the King and the Queen and the Four of Coins here, there is a sense, the Four of Coins is about a stable home, and the King and Queen both portray actual people. There is a sense here that, especially if you've had a really serious if you've had very serious relationships in your past, like relationships where you've like lived with people. For some people, these are people who you have kids with, people who you've been married to, like really serious relationships in your past. The people who they move on to, their new partners, very intimidated by you. Very intimidated by you. I get the sense that your shadow looms pretty heavy over your past relationships, current relationships. It's unfortunate to say, but I think for a lot of you, there are people from your past who you're the peak. So they compare other people to you. Like, it's an issue that they still have for some of these people years later. Like, they can't help but compare the people who they're with, the people who they're getting with even, to you. They can't help themselves. Like, they can't help but have you as the pinnacle. And because of that, they compare everyone who comes into their life to you. And I don't think that they're super open about it, but I also don't think that they're very, very secretive about it. Like, I do think that this is the kind of situation where, like, you have exes who tell their current partners about things that you guys have done together as just like stories. Like, oh, yeah, we went to this place together. We did this thing together. It was so much fun. They were so much fun. And that is really intimidating to their old partner, to their current partners. Like, whether you are still in touch with these people or not, whether these and with the King of Swords energy in your life, I get the feeling that when you have breakups, they might be really significant breakups. Like they might be really, really intense breakups. The Four of Coins is about stable homes. When that kind of stable home is disrupted, it's a big deal. You know what I mean? So I do think that you've probably had some pretty gnarly breakups in your past. Despite that, there are people who have like the best memories with you. Like being with you was the best time of their life, so they can't help but talk about it. And their current partners are incredibly intimidated by you because of it. Like this Page of Swords energy, it likely, at least for some of you, is your old partner's current partners kind of stalking your social media and checking out the competition, even though you are no longer competition. They can't help it. Your ex makes them feel like you are still competition, even if you are completely out of their lives and have been for a very long time. If you have children with these people, I feel really bad for I I feel a little bit bad for their current partners. They will always have a link to you. They will never let you go. And that is, for a lot of these people, kids or no kids, that's just reality. Like they have such strong links to you, they don't want to let them go. And because they don't want to let them go, it ends up infecting new areas of their life and heavily intimidating and heavily making the current partner that they have uncomfortable. And we've got Manic Pixie Dream Girl, regularly idealized, hard to get to know intimately, secretive about their private life, not goal oriented or focused on personal growth, doesn't like to settle down, misunderstood. So what's coming out the most there is regularly idealized. That's definitely Manic Pixie Dream Girl energy. Regularly idealized. We're just talking about that. There are people from your past who hold you as the mark. They want someone like you, regardless of. And I think for a lot of these people, it's not that they've forgotten about how things ended, it's that they have reflected on how things ended and they have a lot of regrets. And as time has gone on, those regrets have only gotten bigger, they've only gotten more intense because you don't seem to have any of those regrets. And they would know because they've been watching you. Like, you seem to be doing just fine. You seem to be progressing just fine. You seem to be sitting pretty. Meanwhile, they can't help but focus on you. They can't help but feel like a page to your queen, right? Regardless of how you identify, right? Like, they can't help but feel like a page to your queen. And these people, the longer it goes, the longer this obsession and this like fixation goes on, the more they idealize you, the more their mind works you up into something that like no one will ever compare to. For some of these people, not even you, because they've completely altered your memory because it's been so long. Like they've just idealized you so much for such a long time that there's no one who could ever compare to that. They've completely morphed your memory into something totally untouchable. And for a lot of you, they didn't even have to do that. Like, you guys are just fun people. I get the sense that you're fun people. That sense of inner glow, that sense of inner light, like I get the sense that you're fun, very joyous human beings to be around. And that kind of energy leads to a really good time. For a lot of these people, their best memories are with you. Their most supported time in their life, the time when they were most at ease with themselves was with you. A fact of the Manic Pixie Dream Girl trope is that the characters tend to be really one-dimensional because the whole point of their character is to assist with the growth of the protagonist, basically. And these people, that's they miss that energy in their life. Like, obviously you are far more than one-dimensional. Obviously you have completely moved on from these people. But these people, they see you as they see the time that they had you in their life as the most supported time that they ever had, as the time when they were most capable of knowing who they were. I think for a lot of people, when their relationships with you end, they go through kind of like an identity crisis because they rely so heavily on you for support and they don't even realize it until you're gone. It's it's definitely very intimidating energy to like be so jarred. Like these people are really intimidated by the amount of power you seem to have over them and the amount of hold you seem to have over their lives. There are definitely people who recognize the fact that it's really weird that they're still so attached to you, but they can't help it. Like they can't help it. They are super attached to your memory. They're super attached to everything that you guys did together and they'll never let it go. And we've got kudere. Blunt can come off as jaded or rude, thinks they're better than everyone else, not a team player, cold towards others. What I'm getting there is blunt and comes off as jaded or rude, and I'm not getting it about you. I'm getting it about the people who you deal with. Um, I think that this sums up how the people who you've left behind in your life are currently acting. Like, again, these are people who have decided that you are the goal, and they are more than willing to try and shape other people into that. Like, these are people who can be very, very mean, frankly, to the people who they bring into their lives because they're not you. Ultimately, a lot of these people are just trying to replace your presence in their life. So, like, they can treat the people that are currently in their life kind of mean. Again, I hate to say it, but I kind of feel bad for these people's current partners. Like they're never going to live up to your memory. And we've got Dandere. Lonely, can lack true deep relationships, submissive personality, terrified of emotional vulnerability, prone to unrequited love. So, unrequited love, yeah, I'm getting just a lot. Your exes are coming through here. I didn't even think that there would be an ex pile in this kind of reading, but this is a very strong ex moment here. Your exes are coming through strong. There are people who really, really miss you right now, is what's going on. There are people who really, really miss you right now and they're feeling lonely. And for a lot of these people, I'm getting that they're like in relationships, like they have people around them. I'm currently right outside the holiday season. This reading is timeless, but I'm currently right now in a season where like people are they're around the people that they care about most. They're with their family, they're with their friends, they're going to parties, they're celebrating. But this time of year can be very, very difficult for some people, and I have a feeling that there are people who are all up in your energy right now because they have really intense memories of you surrounding this time of year. This is a hint if you've been feeling really bogged down lately, if you've been feeling like maybe something's been off about your energy, I would cleanse. A spiritual bath or like a smoke cleansing of yourself would probably be a good idea, especially since I'm pretty sure that these people are still watching your social media. Like they're actively putting their energy all up in yours. So if you've been feeling really like heavy lately, I would definitely cleanse because there are people who are remembering times with you. And that's kind of the hint. If you have memories of people, if you have really specific memories with like your exes or people who are really important to you that you've cut out of your life around the holiday season, around Christmas time or anything like that, the New Year's, that's kind of your hint as to who is currently all up in your energy because there are definitely people who are feeling very, very lonely because they are remembering times with you and recognizing the fact that they're never going to get those times back. And we've got ISFP, introversion, sensing, feeling, and perceiving. Artesian, sensitive, considerate, kind, empathetic. Composer, craves freedom, dislikes too much attention. Observant, likes to live in the moment, independent. Loyal, prefers to work alone, dislikes conflict. So I'm getting loyal and dislikes conflict the most standing out right there. it wraps back around to the fact that you're a very, very balanced person, right? With the Queen of Wands and the King of Swords energy, you're a very balanced person and a very loyal partner with the Four of Pentacles energy here too. Like you're a very, very, you seem like an incredible partner. You seem like a very, very incredible partner. The people who are most intimidated by you right now are people from your past who are heavily regretting losing you. And they're trying to find a way to get back into your life right now. And that is what is intimidating them the most. That is the most intimidating part of everything going on with these people right now. They are trying to figure out a way to get back into your life, and they're recognizing the fact that, like, regardless of how much Queen of Wands energy you have, regardless of that glow, regardless of all of that comfort and homey energy that you offer people, when you cut people off with that King of Swords energy, you cut them all the way off. And these people are super intimidated by that. They're really, really worried about what that means for when they try to come back into your life. Because I get that these people are definitely, even if these are people who you have to deal with regularly because you have kids with them or anything like that, like, I definitely get the sense that they can't handle how things are, how things have been. They're going to try and make a move soon. They're going to try and do something soon to change things. Just be prepared for that sometime in the next couple weeks. But right now, all of the nervous energy, all of the most intimidated energy coming out around you, it's from these people. It's these people's energies being so heavily attached to yours. And so it's from these people's energies being so heavily attached to yours. And so they're gearing up. They're prepping to actually come back into your life. So they're, even as they come closer, as their energy gets closer to yours, it's going to feel even more intense. Again, I would suggest cleansing. I think cleansing would probably be a very, very great idea for you right now. All right, loves, that is what I've got for you. I'm sorry that you ended up getting an X pile in the middle of a "Why are you intimidating" reading, but I hope it comes as some sort of comfort that, like, what makes you really intimidating is the fact that once you're gone, you're gone. People miss you. People really miss you. What makes you most intimidating is the fact that, like, people don't want to lose you. People recognize that once they lose you, they're going to lose something really important and really, really valuable. I hope it was fun. I hope it was enlightening. I will see you next time, loves. Bye.